So Rona has just put some new Halloween animatronics and inflatables on their website for 2025, and overall this year looks like they're gonna have a ton of awesome stuff. Of course, has some really cool Canadian exclusive animatronics and then a few other inflatables which look pretty good. So anyways, with that said, let's of course get checking out all this awesome Halloween stuff that has just been released. What's up, Hauners? I'm Alex, as always, and welcome back to the channel. Now, before we get started, I just want to address why I have the cowboy hat here and everything. Of course, currently it's Stampede Week here in my city, and I was just down there for a concert. I got to see USS and then Delwater Gap. Overall, it's pretty good. And yeah, of course, just trying to keep on the cowboy hat. Of course, my hair, it doesn't look too bad, but, you know, just vibing with this for today. But anyways, like I said there in the intro, of course, Rona, which is a store we have here in Canada, which was previously Lowe's and that was bought out a couple years ago and then converted to Rona. They've, of course, added some new animatronics and inflatables to their website, and overall, they got a ton of cool stuff. Of course, with them being separate from Lowe's now, it means that for Halloween stuff, they have more exclusive stuff that the US doesn't get. And overall, there's some pretty cool stuff on here this year that they're going to have, which is Canada exclusive, which is awesome. A few of these other things on here are not exclusives to Rona. There's stuff we've seen at other stores, but some of it is more harder to find stuff, which you probably haven't seen around, really. But overall, what has been put up so far is we have 5 new animatronics, which I assume that's all the new animatronics we're going to be getting this year. I don't think they would have anymore. And then also there's 5 inflatables on here, which we'll check out at the end of the video, which I do believe there's going to be more inflatables. Of course, last year they first put on a few and then they slowly added more and more. I think last year they probably had about 10 to 15 new inflatables, so definitely more inflatables come. But yeah, these animatronics they have released are really cool. I'm really excited to talk about them today because honestly, some of these would be ones that I would consider getting, especially when they do go on clearance. So anyways, that's enough talking for now. Let's of course get checking these out. Start off with the coolest one right here, which is of course the 10-foot Plague Doctor animatronic. Alright, so unfortunately we do not have videos for any of these yet. We just have website photos, but it still does show us quite a bit about what these animatronics are. So yeah, of course, look at this first guy right here, the new Plague Doctor animatronic, which this guy is probably the coolest to have this year, and honestly one that I would love to get. I am loving the look of this guy and everything so far. Of course, looking at him right here, some basic details about him. Of course, he's going to be $300, which isn't the worst. Of course, it seems like Home Depot here in Canada, a lot of their 12-footers are usually around $400, and then I have seen 10-foot skeletons, other 10-foot props that have been around $300, so pretty decent price for this. And then yeah, of course, just looking at the photo right here of this animatronic, you can see this theme looks really awesome. I love the big head up there. It's of course just a skeleton vibe, but it does look really nice. That sort of like bird head thing right there, that's awesome. Then yeah, I love those hands on there too. They look so big, so creepy. I love the detail on there. It's got a little rib cage on there, which doesn't look like it's an actual like molded piece. Looks like it's probably just printed onto there, which is alright, but it's kind of more hidden away, so it's not too noticeable. Got the other hand up there, really big hands. I love that. He's got this big staff going all the way to the ground and to the top there. He's got this little like green bat detail on there. That's awesome. And yeah, the rest of the clothing there is just that black creepy claw sword detail. But overall, I'm a huge fan of how this guy looks. He looks insane and is one I would love to have. He would fit so well into my graveyard theme. And then yeah, of course, they have descriptions for all these. So even though we don't have videos, we can see what these kind of do. Of course, looking at here, it is fully adjustable, which is cool. So I assume that means there's some posable details about him, like probably his hands might be posable, or at least his like arms in some way probably bent, so that's nice. And then yeah, life-size hair with realistic motion. I wonder what the animation on this guy is. Look at the photo, it's hard to tell. He could potentially have side-to-side animation. I could see that working, or it might just be head. It would also be cool if his arm there that he has sticking out, maybe that can move like up and down, sort of like he's reaching for you. That could be something they do. I'm not sure if that is, but I'm curious to see what exactly his animation is, but we do know that he has something going for him. Yeah, of course, sounds, so it's probably just like a soundtrack he plays. I don't think he speaks or anything. And yeah, it says it's high quality polyester and reinforced with iron, so I assume that this is made for outdoors. I'm not sure if it says anywhere on here, made for outdoors. Yeah, I don't necessarily see anything on here, but I would assume that it is made for outdoors, especially with that little line right there. So overall, this guy right here, he's an awesome animatronic. Of course, it seems like he is going to be Canada exclusive, which is really cool, like when we get these Canada exclusives. Of course, Rona last year, they gave us that cool witch one, which is awesome. That's cool to see another one this year, so overall, this guy, the biggest thing we're getting this year, and I'm a huge fan. Getting to the others right here, I am going to say it's a little bit disappointing from here, but still there's some alright stuff to check out here, so let's just look through it. Of course, the first one we have right here is a new Groundbreaker skeleton animatronic. This is, of course, the version that's going to be at Rona this year, and overall, it's an interesting looking one. Of course, there's a few different photos of this. Of course, looking through the different ones, you can see, of course, his arms are posable, so you can really pose them in any way you want, so that's kind of cool. And then, yeah, it's pretty much just the basic skeleton look. He's got the head up there, looks like he has the posable jaw, he's got red glowing eyes. He's got the ribcage right there, which they didn't make it see-through. It looks a little bit weird not having it see-through, but, you know, it looks alright. He's got the arms right there sticking out, and I do appreciate the, like, cracking detail, and it makes him look older, and I do appreciate that. And then the posable aspect is really cool. All these other Groundbreaker skeletons we got have not been posable, so cool to see this guy posable. Yeah, other details about this guy. Of course, it does say for indoor and outdoor use, so that's nice. And yeah, I don't see anything on here about sound, so he probably just does light up. It looks like he is only battery operated, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, pretty cool. This guy's, of course, coming in at $200, which isn't the worst price. He, of course, is 3 foot tall, so a decent sized one, and I do like the posable aspect, so overall an interesting Groundbreaker skeleton. I'm not the biggest fan of these because they've just made so many, but for what it is, the one here from Rona looks pretty good. And carrying on, the next one right here we've got is this one from Sunstar, I believe. I think maybe it was Moore's Costumes that had this for wholesale, or maybe some other stores. We've seen this one before, but pretty much it's one of these animatronics where it has the head on top and then the head underneath that pops up. Of course, this was an idea that was originally created from Spirit Halloween with their Henry Hustle animatronic, and Sunstar, of course, copied on everything. And this animatronic right here, it's an all-right one. It's not one that I'm too big a fan of. On the look of it, it's pretty basic. The clothing, you know, it's just that sort of like older look, and then the head up there looks, I don't know, I do not like the head. The head underneath, it does look decent. They did try and go a bit creepier on it, but for what this animatronic is, it's not too good of one. Maybe it'd be one I'd consider getting if I could get it for 75% off, like mega clearance, but I'd definitely not pay full price for this, which this one, of course, is coming in at $100, which, you know, isn't the worst price. Of course, a lot of these like Sunstar type ones here in Canada usually go for around 100, so pretty comparable to other stores. It has audio too to go along with it. And yeah, I will say it is a decent jump scare. It's not the worst, but you know, it's just more cheaper looking and definitely not something that I would really want to get this year. And carrying on, we're getting another new witch animatronic right here, which just is weird because the last 3 years we've gotten witch animatronics. Of course, it was a couple of years ago we got one. Last year we got 2 of them, and this year we're getting another new one. So really just love releasing their witch animatronics here, I guess. But this one right here looks interesting. It's pretty much just a witch with a spell book, you know, another pretty simple design, probably another Sunstar animatronic here. And overall, this one, I'm not a big fan of this one either. The hat right there kind of looks like a spider web on it, or maybe that's just creepy cloth, but you know, it's an alright look for the hat. The face right there is really what's throwing it off for me. I don't know, it looks really stupid, the head on here. I don't know what it is about it. It does not look that good. Clothing is just a creepy cloth hanging down and everything, and the spell looks alright. Overall, just the one big thing with these is they don't have too much detail. They're not the most detailed props out there, and they're not that cool. But you know, for what it is, it's alright. Then yeah, some other details on here. It doesn't say too much. It does say it has some sort of movement. I assume it's probably like the head shakes a bit or something. It must be something like that. And then sound, of course, it's just gonna be that typical witch laughing one, I believe. Yeah, of course, for this one right here, $100, again, an all-right price. Not personally one that I think is worth 100, but for what it is, it's an all-right witch animatronic, but probably not one that I would get. Alright, and ending off for the animatronics right here, we have a new Reaper guy right here, which this guy looks somewhat familiar. Of course, he looks very similar to the Sunstar Reaper that we got from Canadian Tire a couple years ago, and that's been sold ever since. He has that same vibe where he has the wings sticking out, the face looks very similar and everything, so this might be the same model, or at least a similar one. And overall, this guy, again, I think he might be the best out of the 3 Sunstar ones we're getting here. I don't know, just like the simpler Reaper look, you know. Reapers don't need much detail, so it does work for this guy. The wings on the back look pretty good. It's just that black fabric, but it's decent. I do like how they have the rifts in there. Face right there, it's not the greatest. Looks like there's a little cut in the face right there, so I do assume it's like either the jaw moves up and down when he's speaking, or it could be one where like the head like pops in half kind of. I don't think so. I think it's just mouth animation he probably has, but you know, the hand sticking out and then just creepy cloth body. Overall, not the worst design, you know. It's really hard to make a bad Reaper, I would say. And then yeah, some other details about this guy, of course. It says movement again on this and sound, which isn't really too specific, so not 100% sure what it is, but I assume it's something to do with the mouth there. And the overall, again, for this $100, which honestly isn't really worth it. This guy is another one that maybe I would get if I find him on super clearance, but it's not one I'm really going to be looking for this year. But, you know, for what it is, it's not too bad of a prop. Alright, and that right there was the main things I want to talk about today, the animatronics. But quickly, I also just want to cover some of the new inflatables they have here because they're pretty cool. Of course, we got 5 of them, so let's quickly talk about those. Of course, the first one right here, which is currently the biggest one they're going to be having, is this new Pumpkin Reaper animatronic, which is really cool. Now, this guy, he might be the same model that we saw at Superstore last year. I'm not 100% sure. He looks very similar to that one we've seen, so he might be. He's all 7 foot like that other one, so who knows. But overall, I do like the look of this. Pumpkin Reaper is definitely my favorite inflatables out there. I especially like just the classic Gemmy ones, but this one here is pretty cool too. It's supposed to be more of that pumpkin ghost vibe, it seems, so overall it's pretty cool. Looks like he has the kaleidoscope light there in the head, which is nice, like when they add that to inflatables. He's got these like weird horns coming out of his back, which look decent. It's kind of that purplish look. Then he's got just that similar vibe to all these other Pumpkin Reapers, but with the hand sticking out. He's got his like coat sort of on. I don't know what to call that look. Kind of like tuxedo maybe. So overall it looks really cool. Coming in only $60, which isn't too bad price. If this goes on sale, maybe it'd be one I'd get. Probably not. I already have quite a few Pumpkin Reapers and I'm starting to run out of room for inflatables, but he's a cool one. We've also got a new Spider one right here. This one's probably my favorite one that they have so far. I really like this. Of course, is 8 feet. I assume that's wide, so like from one leg to the other, or it might be long, but either way, it looks really cool. I like the detail in his like butt there, I guess, or his body. It's kind of like a big pumpkin face. That looks cool, and it does seem like it might have kaleidoscope lights. Typically with the spiders, they do always add them. Then yeah, it's got that really creepy face right there with the red light up eyes and then all these legs sticking out. And overall, not one I would get. I did get their Spider Inflatable last year that they had. It was a black and green model and was pretty much the same thing to this, except it didn't have that detail paint on the body. And of course, it was green and black and not red and black. But overall, cool to see another spider this year. And honestly, I love these Spider Inflatables. They're really cool to like just like put on the roof of your house kind of. So he's really cool and only coming at $60, which isn't too bad price. Another good one that if it goes on sale, it's probably gonna be a cool one to get. And then over here, we also got a new Minion Inflatable, which it seems like Rona here has been giving us so many Minion Inflatables over the years. I think last year we got a couple new ones, the year before too. And the new one we're getting this year is this sort of As Bat Inflatable right here, and it looks pretty good. He's like got the wings coming out right there. He's got horns in the head, and overall it looks decent. Yeah, $45 on this, which isn't too bad. And I assume this one, it must be made by Gemmy. I think it's only Gemmy that really has a license to install this stuff. I know their other inflatables that they had last year were not made by Gemmy, which is one of the biggest changes since they were bought out from Lowe's. They, of course, started importing inflatables that aren't Gemmy ones, but I do think that their licensed ones, they're still keeping from Gemmy, and then their other ones are separate companies. But yeah, Bob right here, he's a cool one to see. Then right down here, we've got this ghost dog right here holding the pumpkin cat little bag right there. Overall, this one's a more cutesy looking one, so probably not one I'd get, but it still looks pretty cool. I like how the dog is like in this ghost costume. That's cool. And then he's got his ears coming out right there. You can see his feet at the bottom. He's got his eyes right there, and then nose sticking out. Overall, pretty cool. And then detail with him holding the bag right there is also cool. So overall, not the best inflatable out there, but for what it is decent. If you're doing more of like a cutesy Halloween display, it's pretty cool and get in. Only $35 on it, which isn't the worst price. That's pretty comparable to some other retailers. Then moving on, the last inflatable we have right here, which is this pumpkin stack right here. Simplest an inflatable can be, pretty much. Basically just 3 pumpkins stacked top of each other. Each one has a different face. The one top, of course, has a stem coming out. And this one right here, right around 3.5 foot, only coming in at $20, which is an amazing price for this. That's like the cheapest you'll find inflatable anywhere, because it's always Walmart that has all their 4-footers for $20. So $20 on this, really good price. You know, it's a simpler one, but honestly, if I were to get this on clearance, which there'll probably be lots of them at the end of the season, they always order a ton of these smaller inflatables, so I could probably get one of these easily for $10 at the end of the season, and you know, for what it is, it's not too bad, and nice, just a little inflatable to add to your collection. And anyways, with all that said, everyone, that of course is it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoy. Really just want to cover all this awesome stuff because, yeah, lots of these Canadian Halloween stores people often forget about because not too many Canadian haunters out there. It seems like none of them except me ever talk about this stuff, so we just want to cover this to show you all this awesome stuff that you're going to have this year, and I can't wait for it to start showing up in stores. Of course, on the website right here, it says in stock, online, and in stores on August 27th, which is of course the same thing it said last year, except stores getting their stock earlier, and it seems like stores, they don't put it out exactly on August 27th. Seems like the second they get in, they put it out, so Expect this stuff in stores around start to middle of August, and then of course released online by the end of August. Overall, some awesome animatronics and inflatables, and honestly the 10-foot Plague Doctor is one that I might put on my list for animatronics I want this year. I might get him off to see him in person, see what exactly sounds like an animation, but he's like a cool one. Anyways, that's it. Please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below your thoughts on all these. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.